Jingawala. Welcome to our Wednesday show on 101.3 Tales of the Tweed. My name is Arabella and I'm going to be sharing with you a continuation of a discussion we started at the beginning of February, which is about Aboriginal seasons. We spent some time last week talking about the Bamtu season, and today I'm going to introduce you to the season called Yaga, which is the Minyabul word for wind or ice wind. So as we move into the season of March and the end of March, you're going to start to feel those afternoon winds, and they're going to feel a little bit cooler very quickly, and that is your first indication of what we call Yaga. And the slow winds that come in the afternoon are going to have this kind of tip of icy sort of feel, and then as we move into the Warrigan season, which is the word for winter, you will then have more days with more of that icy wind feeling. So as you feel the afternoons between now in February and we move into March, look for those indications around 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon when you really start to see a significant drop and you start to feel a cool wind. It's at that point that the season starts to transition. The other indication that you'll start to see as well is plant life and bug life. But I should mention as well, this is an important fact with First Nations people, because it's a system that really is focused on ecological observance. So that means that you get all your indicators from the environment around you about what is happening and where you are in life and how life is moving. It generally means, and First Nations people, for example, Inuit people who are in Iceland and those areas of the Arctic Rim, have about 62 words for the words for ice, because there's a variety of ice and there's a variety of snow, so that when you get better at identifying that, you don't just clump it in with 1 or 2 words, you have an extension of vocab. We have that in the Bundjalung language group as well. So Bundjalung language incorporates all the way down past Byron until you get to Gumbunya land, which is Coffs Harbour, and they also have a dialect, a separate dialect. But in the Bundjalung language group, you have about the same. You have about almost 30 words that mean wind and a different type of wind. So it means that you've got societies that know the difference between a breeze and a gale, but also have a variety and words for a variety of temperature and impact and direction. So Yaga is a particular type of wind that comes in this season, which is not to be confused by Warrigan, which is a stronger southeasterly, which you'll experience in the winter. So the word itself is nuanced for both the direction, the type and the feel, and where the wind is actually flowing from. We've experienced warm winds in summer. At the moment, we've had a lot of wet, sort of rainy season in Bamtu, which was the end of Nungalgiri, which means that's the word for warm winds or rains and storms and lightning. So that those words include definitions like Mugara, which is basically the word for lightning and thunder. So we're moving out of that season into Bamtu, and Bamtu is the essence of those words, and the words that are associated with the environment differ from the season of Yaga, because there's a variation in the type of wind, the direction of the wind, and the movement of the wind. So I'm going to, as the year progresses, as the month progresses, as we go through the seasonal calendar, I'm going to remind you to think about wind and rain and taste and smell, so taste on your tongue when you're in the environment, of how it changes depending on the month and the season. You can smell summer. Often a lot of people will say that when they're in summer rain, they can smell the summer rain. That smells very different to winter rain. But what's actually occurring there is, as the water is hitting the earth, the pheromones that come up from the earth differ based on the temperature and the type of reaction that the rain's giving it. So when you smell rain and you smell summer rain and you smell winter rain, you're actually smelling a different phase in the soil underneath. You're not just smelling different water. And that's the same with winds as well. So winds are fascinating as a feature in the environment to really give you different indicators of what's occurring. You'll also have, obviously you have pollen in the environment as well in some seasons, but pollen actually occurs because trees have both male and female sexual organs in them. All trees have. In fact, in the natural world, if you have dual sex, you're known as perfect plant. So what happens when you smell pollen and when you've got hay fever is you're in an area with predominantly male plants, and the area is lacking balance because there's not enough propagation of female plants. So it's going out crazy and it's trying to pollinate and it's trying to continue. And in the season of Yaga, as we go through Bamtu, you're going to feel a little bit of that change. You're going to see a lot of male trees release their pollen. You're going to feel it because there isn't great balance in our biodiversity in the Tweed. We need to improve that. But in an area with good biodiversity, so that means a natural environment that already has changed sexual shape to be an environment of stability, you get less pollen. So if you're in a city or you're in a town with lots of pollen, I want you to observe where you're really standing, and you're probably going to be standing in an environment that's been felled and regrown as opposed to a natural environment in a big national park. You very rarely get hay fever in a national park because the area is pristine, it's untouched by human beings, so therefore it has natural sexual balance in the plants that are around, generally if it hasn't been disturbed too much. But those indicators of pollen sit on wind, which is what you're going to experience as well. Wind has a variety of names in the Minyambul and Bundjalung language groups, so there's about 20 or 30. So familiarise yourself with the different types of winds and notice the change in the winds as we move from the season of Bamtu into Yaga. So that's the period between our recent new moon in February, and it will run all the way till the final new moon in the middle of March, around the 18th and 19th. So at the end of that phase, 18th or 19th of March, will be officially the season of Yaga. I thank you for enjoying my program. I thank you for the comments, for those people that are sending in comments. That's great. I'm looking forward to speaking to you next week about the season of Warrigan. My name is Arabella and I've enjoyed being here. Tales of the Tweed and Boogle Bear.